Alright, so this is take two. I had recorded this whole video like 2 days ago, and it turned out that the audio was not usable. Um, so I don't know. I didn't know I was gonna have that problem. But anyways, long overdue wrap-up video. So I had finished my no caffeine experiment a long time ago. I just never got around to filming it. So here is my second take on it. It's a bummer because the first one was, I had like 40 minutes of footage. So I'm going to try to keep it as concise as possible. But I'm going to break this video down into two parts. So the first part will really be about kind of just like a brief overview of where I started with this experiment, and just briefly, kind of how I felt throughout the experiment, week 2, week 3, week 4. And then the second part of the video will really be about key findings and insight and, just things that really stuck out at me. So part 1, where I started. So prior to this experiment, I was consuming anywhere between 500 to 700 milligrams of caffeine a day, and that was in the form of coffee, that was in the form of espresso, that was in the form of caffeine pills, energy drinks, meal squirts, so anything like that. And it pretty much got to the point where I was consuming so much that it just wasn't having really any effect on me. And sometimes it would actually just make me tired, or maybe I was getting tired naturally anyway. So the caffeine got to a point where it just wasn't doing much for me. So when I decided to start on this no caffeine experiment, I slowly tapered my way into 0 milligrams. So it was like before my 30 days, I already had started reducing. So in the beginning of the experiment, some of the things I really noticed was headaches. So headache was one of those things that I kind of felt in my head kind of throughout the entire day. It wasn't anything like a crazy migraine or anything like that, but it was one of those things where it was kind of just like nagging me throughout the entire day. And I felt that for pretty much most of the first week. And another thing that I've noticed was just the midday drop in energy, the sleepiness. Usually around 1 or 2 p.m. I would just feel sleepy and tired. Whereas back then, because I had a constant flow of caffeine, it was probably masked. The tiredness was probably masked. So when I was on no caffeine, I would feel the tiredness. So what ended up happening was that I took a lot of naps. They could be as quick as 30 minutes, but no caffeine meant, I couldn't stimulate myself. So I ended up taking naps. And another thing I've noticed is I would get tired earlier in the night. So maybe around 8 or 9 p.m. I would just feel like physically and I don't know, mentally, like I'm ready to go to bed at 9 p.m. or so. And that was really weird because I never really felt that when I was drinking caffeine, because, well, probably because I was just having like a constant injection of caffeine. So maybe my body is supposed to be tired naturally at 8 or 9, but because I was always, just getting jacked up. I never gave myself the chance to actually feel the sleepy tiredness. So in the middle of the experiment, one of the things that I've noticed was my caffeine craving was um, a good part of the craving was really just due to habits and routine. So in the beginning, the headaches and all that was obviously, I think those were physical withdrawal symptoms. Um, but like, more into the experiment, like during the middle of it, I just found myself like wanting to make and drink coffee due to certain triggers or certain like routines. So, and one of those triggers would be when the weather was hot. I just automatically want to make a cup of sweetened iced coffee. Um, and that was what I did. I made decaf iced coffee. I drank it, and it gave me like the similar satisfaction. So that made me realize that sometimes drinking caffeine, at least for me, um, it's I guess it wasn't always about getting jacked up, but a part of it is really about the routine. Whether it's like before I start working, or that midday, after lunch, or every time before I go to the gym or anything like that. It was so just habitual for me. So, however, I still noticed, even midway through the experiment, that I was still um, feeling the midday sleepiness. And that was weird because I was thinking, like, I thought that by, mid experiment, I would feel like all this surge of natural energy and just be sustained for the entire day. Um, that didn't happen. So that kind of made me kind of think like, okay, maybe it the detox period from caffeine will require more than like a few weeks of going cold turkey, caffeine free. Um, Maybe the detox takes a couple of months. Maybe it takes 6 months. Like, I don't know, but I think the fact that I still was feeling the midday sleepiness just tells me like, hey, my body is probably not used to this, because it was just so used to drinking caffeine like every other hour. So for the past 15 years. And more toward the end of the experiment, one thing that I've noticed was that I was just a lot more like chill and a lot more calm and a lot less irritable. It just made me feel like I was less on edge. And it was kind of weird for me because I guess like how I've been operating for the past 15 years, I just assumed that was me and that was how I was normally, and that's just part of my personality. But there were a few moments during toward the end of the experiment where I was just feeling like content and at peace, and where like in situations where I would normally feel like triggered or irritated, my response in those situations was a lot different than how it was normally. You know, in a situation where I would be like, oh, like screw off. I responded in a manner where it's just like oh, okay, like chill, no big deal, NBD. So that was just interesting to me, and it just kind of makes me think like maybe caffeine um, is like an intensifier, or for my irritability. Uh, so I don't know. That's like an interesting thing to kind of explore. And just other things I've noticed was toward the end of the experiment, my cravings for coffee went like pretty much like way down to almost like no craving. Uh, I had trouble sleeping, which was a surprising thing for me. And you know, I think back then when I was drinking caffeine, I would hit the bed, hit the sack, and maybe within like 5 minutes I would be sleeping. During the experiment, though, I would be go to bed and I would be tossing and turning for like 15, 20 minutes, and I'm just like, what the hell's going on? And I think my hypothesis is that when I was drinking caffeine, um, because I never gave my body a chance to feel the tiredness and be tired, um, because it was always masked by caffeine. So when I did get a chance to actually go to bed, my body was just like, finally. So it's like maybe it's the surge of, hey, here's your long overdue tiredness, go to sleep. Whereas when I wasn't drinking caffeine, um, I don't know, when I wasn't drinking caffeine, maybe my body's like, hey, I have more natural energy now, so let's just like stay awake. Which also, it also doesn't really make sense because I would also feel sleepy earlier on in the night, so like 9 p.m. or whatever. But I don't know. Maybe I didn't go to sleep at 9 and then I end up sleeping at 11 instead. So maybe it went past that tired phase. I don't know, man. I'm not a scientist, but that was just interesting to kind of see. Yeah, I think like one last point I want to make is that when I wasn't drinking caffeine and more towards the end of the experiment, um, it was just interesting to kind of see the difference between my energy level and how I become alert in the morning, on caffeine and off caffeine. So when I was on caffeine, there was a routine and a dependency on incorporating caffeine, drinking coffee before work, drinking coffee before XYZ, blah, blah, blah. When I was doing the experiment, though, um, caffeine wasn't an option. So it's alarm. So how it went was alarm goes off, maybe stay in bed for like 5 minutes, roll out of bed, um, and just kind of slowly move into the day. So if I needed to get grocery, like first thing in the morning, I'll wake up, roll around for 5 minutes, get up, and just do my morning thing, and walk to the car and start driving. Um, and maybe like within 30-45 minutes after initially waking up, I would probably feel like 90 to 95% alert, which is pretty damn good considering the fact that when I was on caffeine, um, I guess like a part of me and my mentality was just like, I refuse to operate until I have this stimulant in me. Um, but yeah, I think it was just interesting to see like, oh shit, like I can be a functioning human being without stimulant. So that was just interesting to see, and it just kind of goes to show me that whether it's addiction, whether it's habits and routine, whether it's, just dependency on coffee or whatever, it just goes to show like, hey, like you probably don't need the caffeine as much as you think. So yeah. Wanna say hi, boy? Wanna say hi? What the? Say hi. Mm-hmm. Say hi, boy. That's Minnow. His name is Minnow. He's my little boy. Alright, so part two of this video, we're going to talk about key findings. So, things that I've realized, insight, wisdom. So, number one, no more buzz slash numb brain. So, when I was drinking a lot of caffeine, one of the physical symptoms that I would feel when I take high doses of caffeine was that my brain had this like buzz slash numbing feeling, and it wasn't really pleasant, but it was just this thing where when my brain was feeling like numb, that's when I knew like, oh shit, like I have a lot of caffeine in my system. Therefore, like my brain, it just feels like, I don't know, not like disconnected, but it was just like a weird like buzz, and it's not like a buzz where you're getting high. It was just like a little annoying thing that I felt whenever I consumed a lot of caffeine. So when I was doing no caffeine, the sensation never came, and that was great. Number two, I had less heart irregularities and heart aches. So when I consumed a lot of caffeine, again, like the buzz brain thing, when I consumed a lot of caffeine, sometimes my heart will get like these little moments of like aches or like piercing kind of feeling. Uh, I have those sometimes, like even when I'm not drinking caffeine, and I've had it ever since I was a young kid. So I had a friend who like have something similar. I don't know if you guys feel this, but I know at least one person who um, experienced what I experienced in terms of like just random heart piercing sensations. And I guess it's like it's a sign that you're predisposed to like heart disease later on in life. So um, yeah, when I did no caffeine, um, I I felt way less of those, if any at all. I don't really remember, but um, yeah, so that was definitely a bonus to no caffeine. Number three is natural energy is pretty awesome. So, like I mentioned earlier, with the whole waking up, and consuming caffeine right afterward versus waking up and just living life without caffeine. Um, it was a really weird thing for me to grasp because, for the past 15 years, I've pretty much consumed caffeine nonstop, at least like 360 days out of the year, from sunrise to sunset, basically. So the concept of operating without caffeine and just becoming alert naturally is a very foreign concept to me. But doing no caffeine, I had no choice but to operate naturally. Uh, so I think for me to experience and just kind of know that I can go from a sleepy state um, and move into a, hey, I'm operating at 100% without caffeine state, was a very kind of a cool feeling, I guess. It was like, oh shit, like, whoa, I'm doing this without freaking stimulant. So, uh, yeah, natural energy is pretty awesome. Number four is less irritability and more calm. So, I've only experienced this on a few occasions during my 30 days experiment. So I don't know if it's like you know, I don't know if it's like a real correlation between no caffeine and, you know, I'm a peaceful, super calmer person. So I don't know like how strong that correlation is, but I think just having a few of those moments during my experiment, you know, kind of showed me that maybe there's a possibility that caffeine is or was making me a person that was a lot easier to get irritated and just feeling on edge versus not being on caffeine and, you know, possibly being a much calmer person that maybe even handles stress better. Like, I don't know. That's a possibility. Number five was the realization that caffeine is partly or even mostly due to habits and routine. So this was a pretty significant finding for me because, you know, yes, obviously caffeine is an addictive substance. You know, that's why, you know, we get withdrawal symptoms. That's why we get headaches. That's why, you know, we feel all these things when we're so used to consuming caffeine and then we don't consume caffeine. But, you know, I think for me, what I realized was that caffeine was just so deeply ingrained into my everyday way of being, you know, whether it was when it came to work, when it came to exercise, when it came to working on my business, like even like, you know, social interaction, because I want to be alert and be alive and not just, you know, go into a social situation where I'm just like dead and, you know, whatever. Um, so yeah, I mean, caffeine for me for sure was so like, I don't know if it's not correlated, but it was just so deeply intertwined with my everyday things that I do that when I did no caffeine, it was just like, well, this doesn't really make sense. Like, I usually do this thing with caffeine. I usually do that thing with caffeine. But then like on no caffeine, it's like, well, this is really weird. Like, so I think a lot of it was just like habits and how I intertwine like caffeine into the things that I do. So, uh, you know, and that brings us to number six, which is um, it's a big shift to go from being a heavy caffeine consumer to being just no caffeine. You know, like I was mentioning earlier, it's just everything that I did, um, or most things that I did, just involved caffeine. You know, hey, let's go work at the coffee shop. Let's go study at the coffee shop. Let's go grab coffee. Let's go to the gym. But hold on, let me take my pre-workout. Uh, you know, let's start this work day off with a bang. But hold on, let me get my coffee. So there's just so many things that I did in my life that involved coffee. That yeah, like it's a big shift. Like that's that's all I can say. It's a really big shift. So to kind of wrap it up, how did I feel about the experiment? How did I feel by the end of the experiment? I think it was a great experiment. I realized and learned a lot of things about kind of just my body and also like my mindset and just kind of how I've been operating, or my mode of automatic, without ever really like questioning it that much. I'm just like, well, um I think the identity that I was so attached to, not even attached, but like that was so that I ingrained in myself was like, well, I am about productivity and efficiency and alertness. So everything that I did in my life, whether it was work or work on my business or exercise or whatever, um, I had like caffeine as part of the equation. So to realize like I can operate on my own without a dependency on caffeine. It was a really like important thing for me to realize. And just other things like how caffeine impacted my mood, my energy, my irritability. uh, I think those are all really important things that I realized from this experiment. My overall thoughts on this experiment, and would I do it again? And my answer to that is 100% yes. And the reason for that is because, it's not fun to go through. Oh, by the way, I am consuming caffeine again, just for the record. I finished the experiment like a month or plus a month or more ago, but I just like never got around to recording this. But yeah, I'm consuming caffeine again. But would I do this experiment again? I would definitely do this experiment again because I think it's a good way to kind of like, for me at least, like I see it as a way to challenge myself, to kind of like let myself know that I am still the one in control, when I choose to be. No lie, when I was doing no caffeine, I really did miss the boost from caffeine. Whether it was like I was actually tired and I needed a boost, or if I dreaded doing something, um, and wanted that boost for the extra motivation, or to get over the mental obstacle, the hump. So, and my tolerance definitely has reset to a certain degree, but definitely not to the level where I was before I ever even touched caffeine. Um, but I think this is the type of experiment worth trying for yourself. If you're someone who was is similar to how I operate, where you just kind of need your caffeine throughout the whole day, and where you feel like you can't function without it. I definitely invite you to give it a shot, because it's like, well, what would actually happen if you went somewhere, or you were stuck on an island, and you couldn't have caffeine for 30 days? It's like, are you gonna die? I mean, probably not, but I think it's a good test of like willpower, in terms of like just letting yourself know, like, okay, like, am I being controlled by this, or do I actually have the ability to be in control? Um, you know, I think I love caffeine. I love, the fact that it gives me the, physical and mental boost, especially when I need it. So, I let caffeine win most of the time. But, I just want to know for myself that if I need to be in control, like I will make caffeine my bitch. uh, you want to be the one in control of your habits and what you put in your body. And, it's kind of like crack, if I ever smoked crack, and I never have, and I probably never will, like I want to know that I have built up the mental fortitude to to kick the addiction, whatever that may be. Addiction goes beyond just substance. It could be like, are you addicted to social media? Are you addicted to porn? Are you addicted to video games? Are you addicted to like you know um, like consuming inspirational content, but you won't do anything about it, right? So addiction comes in many forms, and this is just one avenue of addiction. So I think for me, it was a really good exercise to go through this experiment, and just kind of know that I can control the addiction. So yeah, man, like if you have been following this entire no caffeine journey, thank you. I really appreciate it. I know sometimes I tend to ramble, but um yeah, like stay tuned. I'm probably gonna well, for sure I will do more experiments in the future. Just haven't really thought of what to do next, but um yeah, like the video, I guess, if you like it. Subscribe if you want to. I am committed to putting out on average at least one video a week from now till the end of the year. So, I don't have that many subscribers right now, or videos, but just know that if you do want to follow me, follow along, um, you know, I am making it a priority to not become one of those channels where, I'll post like 5 videos, and then, I'll never post again. So you'll see at least on average one video a week from me uh, from now to the end of the year. And maybe in 2021, I'm going to post even more than that. So stay tuned and thank you.